welcome back to Cast Me to Hell with me, Seb.
And with me, Robbie.
And here is our spoiler-filled review of Sting.
Yeah, we are webbing it up and drinking its guts as we talk about the good, the bad, and the tonally inconsistent that is Sting.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we spoke a little bit on the spoiler-free episode where I kind of mentioned that I'd watched one of the directors of the films, Wormwood. Yeah. So we won't pretend that we haven't spoke slightly about this film.
I know. I mean, yeah. Obviously, go back and check it out. And if you've stumbled upon this episode and you're thinking that this is the spoiler-free episode, then run.
Yeah,
run as fast
as you can. We will get you. We will find you, and we'll force you to hit that subscribe button and leave us a lovely review. Now let's get back into it.
Segue,
I love a little segue. I've always got to get that cheap plug in, you know.
Yeah, I mean, so yeah, we've already talked about views, but we in the spoiler-free, obviously, we tend to just skim around ideas and stuff like that. So we're delving properly into that. You know, we talked about a few things like the previous director. We talked about some of the inconsistency in terms of the drama and stuff like that. Yeah. So we'll delve a little bit more into what exactly those problems were. And we also mentioned, well, at least my sticking point was that the title doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, I don't.
I consistently, I don't quite get why it's a Sting or why it's a reference. But it's somewhat like this. The name at first sounds cool until you think more about it.
Yeah.
And then it ends up being kind of an inconsistent and not actually clear idea. Which is a bit like this film.
yeah, it's a great, you know. It's
from the outside, it sounds amazing, but once you dig into it, it's like actually a lot of that doesn't quite work.
Doesn't quite work. Yeah, you know. We spoke briefly about the opening scene, and obviously the opening scene is kind of like darkly comic, and it was something that I really liked about the film, and this is what I thought the whole film was going to be like.
Yeah.
So it opens up with this woman called Helga who lives in this kind of like shithole flat by herself. It's all dark and it's dingy, and there's all this like scuttling going on. You can hear it,
yeah, and
it kind of, you know that like Sting is about, but you're not sure. It's not like how big it is, what's going on. And she calls like a guy, an exterminator, Frank. And you see that like she has like sticky notes to say like what her name is, where she lives.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, this fucking old bit's got dementia, you know.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like darkly comic, you know.
Yeah.
She's rung Frank before about the exact same thing, and then he comes and she's like, "Who are you? I didn't call you." We see the slime outside the vent, and you're like, okay, this is quite like creepy.
And he sees the van of the other
the
exterminator
other brothers
outside the house kind of thing. So you're like, oh, someone else has been here, and it's like, what's going on? And he's like, I know you've had these other guys around, and they've done such a shit job because look, there's stuff coming out.
They haven't even
what the
cleaned
hell
it
that
up.
is, but they didn't even
I like the bit where they're like, you know, they're called like the something brothers, and she's like, they're not even brothers, they're just two Bulgarians who met inside a prison, you know. And it's that thing of like, I thought Frank was a really funny, quite well written character, and I thought like he was going to be the kind of like kooky kind of like guy.
He's the John Goodman, if you know Arachnophobia. John Goodman's this kind of guy that kind of swallows in the exterminator, and he's fun, and he's kind of a little bit of comic relief, and you know, kind of alleviates out from the drama of it all.
Yeah.
So what was sad to find is that he's basically only in that first scene, and then a little bit of the end.
Yeah, he's not.
That's it. He's not in the main.
He's not in
it
much, you know.
Which is why we both said based on the trailer that we kind of thought that it was going to be very much more about like the build up of this, and then it getting out of control, and then him coming in, because in the trailer he's featured quite a bit in the trailer.
Oh really?
Frank is quite there. He was quite there, and like a lot of it. He's the comedy. A lot of his scenes are basically in the trailer.
Yeah.
Sadly for the character, but. So I was kind of thinking he was going to be there, and it was going to kind of happen like that. And I don't know if things have changed actually, because there was one thing. Because do we see Frank like in the end? Jumping off forward a bit, but I just remember because I remember the scene from the trailer. Does he get all fucked up in the face?
A little bit, yeah.
Like I know he gets killed. Like,
but he does. He gets like dragged through the vents and attacked.
I remember a shot in the trailer, and he looks like his face has been like kind of somewhat mangled, like literally, like one of his eyes was like closed.
I think it is a little bit because
I
think
like
I think he gets.
That's just why
he falls down the vent, doesn't he? And
it looked like more like he'd had like damage or like acid or
maybe,
something, that kind of attack or something. That's just why I was suddenly like, I wonder whether they've cut scenes of him actually. And it was, well, there was more to it. Like he's taken earlier, but they changed it around.
Yeah.
But anyway, we get all of these kind of scenes, and I really love the idea that she has basically been calling all the different exterminators about this problem and forgetting that she's called them.
Yeah, I think that's so funny.
And again, and you even get the idea that the brothers are dead because there's a
see one of them,
on the floor. Do we see the brothers later on?
You see one. You don't see the brothers later on. You see, because there's the kind of the idea is that Sting is basically using the vents to get around, which is quite a cool, creepy idea. And you see the one brother kind of like battered in the thing, and then he gets dragged away, and then Frank gets dragged away, and then the old Helga is like, keep it down in there, and then you hear the scuttling, and she's like, goes to the phone
at the opening, but later in the film,
we don't see them.
We don't see them again. We don't see the whole like them appearing.
No, I don't recall it.
No, that's what I mean. I was a bit disappointed because I wanted to kind of see that. I thought, oh, that's a good build up. Later, we'll get to see them die or attacked, and we don't actually get to see that, which was a little bit disappointing. But the scene, to be fair, with the one brother in the vent is actually quite good because it has like his chest is like. You get like a splatter kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like, so it happens to his chest kind of thing. Which, the only thing I always wonder about the scuttling is, like, the scuttling sounds really quiet, but by the point in the film in which Frank comes back around, Sting is already
big lad.
Massive. Like, massive. Like, to the point of, like, the scuttling seems almost too quiet for the level of size that Sting is by this point.
Maybe, yeah. Maybe. To be honest, I didn't really notice it. I thought the scuttling was quite good, quite creepy.
No, I like the scuttling. I'm just meaning consistency-wise. Consistency-wise, I think by this point, because obviously when you're watching the opening scene, none of this matters because you don't even realise this is taking place before any of that happens. So
to be honest, when I was watching it, I was like, as the lad put it on halfway through, because because there's stuff that she mentions like, oh, I don't have a parrot, and stuff like that, and I was like, I've seen the trailer. You have a parrot. Your parrot gets raped.
Yeah, that's what. In fact, I did the same thing because I checked on my remote and went, have I accidentally?
Have you skipped forward?
Yeah. So it does. It seems out of place, but it kind of works as a good tease.
Yeah.
But, like we said in the one before, like there's all of this humour. There's the gore of the guy in the vent. There's the weird teases. There's the fact that you've got like a woman with dementia who's like,
which is so funny.
Implies like she's been like killing off, and that I liked the idea that we were going to get more of this oddly dark of this woman who keeps ringing, and you like how funny would it have been in a kind of Ready or Not kind of way to constantly see exterminators go
just turning up
and just, not even seeing them die, but just see them like every once in a while he walks by and keeps seeing more people knocking on her door. But yeah, and that's what I mean. Like those little seedlings are like laid there, and you're like, oh, this seems fun.
And it has a great title scene where, like, we get this scene.
Yeah, the spider. I loved that bit as well.
And, like, a meteor comes through and an egg hatches inside a dollhouse.
Yeah.
And then little Sting comes out and he's crawling around like this, dollhouse.
Yeah.
But because of the size of everything, because of how big he is, it's just super cool.
Yeah.
And then it comes out with the sting, and you can see that was an actual sign, because as it goes further away and it shifts towards like where the little girl comes from, you can still see the sign.
Yeah.
So it's a little goof for you if you're interested in goofs. That's what I'm at.
Yeah.
Our viewers will just find you disgusting.
Yeah, coughing myself.
How dare you breathe?
How dare I live and breathe
incorrectly on it?
No, I really loved that whole opening. I thought that was a really cool shot. Like seeing him travelling around, moving through the different rooms.
It tickled me, It tickled me about what was coming up.
But that's what I mean. But the thing is, again, it was fun. Like it was fun to see like the spider in this kind of way, leading up to the kind of girl, and that's what we talked about. The fact that all of this really laid out a film that's very different than what it then follows.
Yeah.
Basically, after the scene, kind of goes pretty much straight into a girl and then family drama. You know, the girl that's kind of surrounded by a family who's struggling and a family who is not quite on the same page and who are keeping secrets from each other. And
so you got like the dad who is who I don't think he works, but I think for free rent from his mother-in-law or auntie-in-law.
I think it's aunt. Yeah.
Yeah, he's he's basically doing like the maintenance and all of that stuff that he's not really qualified or trained to do for this massive apartment block. And then at night he's trying to race for this deadline for this comic book that he's like doing the illustrations for.
Yeah.
His wife has just had a baby, and I feel like that wasn't played out enough. You know, the wife seems as if she's just kind of there. It's mainly about
she has a job as well.
She has a job. She has secure employment.
Yeah.
But it's just that like she doesn't really have much of a part to play. It's basically about him. He's not the dad, but he's the dad that stepped up. You know, like that kind of thing. He's trying to like build a relationship.
It's very much him and the girl's film.
Yeah,
really,
basically.
And then the spider, obviously.
And I thought he was a really well done character. You know, I think you rooted for him because like everyone just seemed to be like piling shit on him.
Yeah.
And he was kind of trying to keep his head above the water.
The auntie who like gives him this, but also thinks he's terrible and thinks he shouldn't be part of the family.
Yeah.
And then you've got the daughter who he's the stepdad. So
he's not the stepdad. He's the dad that stepped up.
Yeah.
You know.
Exactly. That's what I mean. Like his dad, like the dad's not in the picture, and you know he's there. He's trying to do things, and he's trying to parent her, but he's not, and he doesn't know. He almost feels a bit like he doesn't know if he can do this or he can't do this. And the mum's not really giving any support in that way to be like,
No.
oh yeah, you can talk to her like that, or you should do that. You're like,
well, like she's
you're
trying,
his dad, like you're trying that.
Like she does, but it's kind of like it just doesn't feel like the mum is very much fleshed out. Apart from that one scene later, which is done really well, where they have an argument and then Sting takes them both. That's awesome.
That bit's awesome. Yeah.
But it was kind of like up until that, the mum was basically. I felt like she was very much like sidelined. She was like dealing with the baby, and then the dad and the daughter would have like a moment, and then the dad would go to the mum and be like, she doesn't like me, as opposed to the mum really being massively involved. She was basically like, she's just there's a new kid in the house.
But you never get to see the mum actually go to the daughter.
No, not I really
like
recall.
You never really get much of that. That's kind of part of the problem, I think, is the fact that most of the scenes relate around him and his struggles with it, but because you never get to see the mum's side of things, it makes her seem like she's not, and therefore that makes her seem kind of cold, I guess, is the problem.
Yeah.
Because it feels like she's not really trying to help.
No.
And she never, therefore it never comes across like she's trying to help him. It almost feels like she's just helping his failure as like a dad and then like someone providing for the family. He just feels like more of a failure because of the situation. So yeah, he gets a fair amount to it. Also, actually, in terms of the mum, quite often I swear half of her scenes are when she's handing the baby over to someone else as well. So she's always looking after the baby. But most of the scenes in which you see her in, like, is either you see her play with it, but then it's normally followed by, oh, we do this, and can you do this? Like, here you go, can you take the baby, or can you look after the baby? I need to go to work, so here you go. However old you are, you need to look after the baby.
Yeah,
and not do it well because we know you're not going to do it well.
We know you're not doing it well. You're like 8 years old.
Yeah, but and then that kind of that involves a scene that also made me dislike the main character, the girl, the
foot on the crib.
She's just. It's fine when at the beginning, when she finds Sting and she kind of puts her in the jar, but there's a kind of darkness to it because she does quite like dark imagery, like kind of drawings and stuff like that, which is a nice kind of part to have. It kind of plays into that kind of that she like draws these different kind of pictures, but some of them are quite. And I guess it's trying to show that she's a complex. Yeah. She's got stepdad. She's always seems to be waiting around for her actual dad to kind of show up in the picture. And, you know, again, because her mum's so busy, she's kind of forgotten about child, I guess, is what...
I guess that's what they're going for, yeah.
But the problem is that a lot of it comes down to kind of just scenes of her either looking grumpy or annoyed or doing something sarcastic or mean-spirited towards her parents or her stepdad.
Yeah, that's where it came off.
Like. And you don't get, like, the problem is I don't feel like you get many that make you warm to her.
No.
And she is meant to be someone of a certain age, so it's like, I mean, I guess you don't have to do that kind of thing, but the problem is, if she's going to be like the main one and she's kind of the one that's brought Sting into the picture, the problem is it kind of makes her feel kind of like just not someone you're going to root for in the story.
No, and it was really interesting because there was a point where like this is just like jumping through the film.
Yeah.
But she finds Sting and she puts him in that jar and she starts feeding him like cockroaches, you know, which is kind of cool. And they find out that there's like a little mimic call that he does. But there's this scene like where, you know, this is happening and Sting's starting to grow and sneak out and kill things. And then he gives it, she kind of goes up to get a tank from the like biology student upstairs. He rings the dad and is like, I've never seen like this fucking creature before. It could be venomous. It's dangerous. And then he goes downstairs and confronts the daughter, and he's like, "We're not having venomous animals in this house around the child."
Yeah.
And for some reason, the mum isn't like, "Yeah, why the fuck have you got this deadly spider that you're keeping around your newborn and yourself? You fucking dimwit."
Yeah.
She's like, this isn't your thing to deal with.
Yeah.
And then later on in the film, when she's like, I didn't mean for this to happen, and the dad's like, none of this is your fault. It's like, yes, this is directly your fault.
Yeah.
You found an alien spider and you kept it. Like, you should have crushed
I mean, she has a proper darkness to her, which some people might like in their kind of characters, I guess, maybe. Even the stuff with the cockroach, and I know it's a fucking cockroach, so who cares, but her lust for it to like kill, you know, like, but that's not it. But her like straight to like grabbing things and like to like feeds to it and that kind of like interest in death and stuff like that. You know, that's somewhat like you're like, okay, interesting kind of thing. But I don't know what it was. Like, it was like the scenes like I said, like with the mum when she asked her to babysit and she's just standing up to the door and she's like literally like, I hate you, like I absolutely hate you to the child. And it's like, okay, so, you know, again, just because you're the child that obviously isn't getting as much attention, you're going to act like that. But it just came across as spoiled brat.
And that's the thing. I feel like she had no like redeemable features, so that when it got to the end, and it kind of does lean into that like aliens kind of like thing.
Yeah.
It's almost like I'm rooting for you because I like Ethan and the dad, and I don't want a baby to die.
Yeah.
However, if this was Frank in this situation, the exterminator, or anybody else, I would still be rooting for them the same level. Yeah. It's almost like she's like, oh shit, like this is my stepdad and my thing, as opposed to it's like even when she's supposed to be watching him, she's just like got her feet
constantly
on the thing.
The only thing that adds fear is constantly thinking that baby was going to be taken.
It's getting gobbled.
I was like, that baby's just going to be gobbled.
I
started to wonder whether this film was going to go that dark with it, because I was there like, I mean, I'm surprised Sting hasn't got you by now.
Yeah, you're a fucking baby,
like,
man.
How the hell have they not just gobbled you up in the night? Like,
it'll be the first thing you're going for.
They've had the parrot, they get the dog. Well, no, they don't get the dog.
They get the cat.
Of course the dog's alive. They get the cat.
Of course the cat dies.
The cat can fucking die, but the dog
of course, mate, of course.
And, you know, it was like a chihuahua, so I don't count that as a real dog.
No, it's not even a real animal.
If it was a Labrador, then no, you can't touch that. Like, you know, no, of course, a proper dog.
A chihuahua,
but
I want to see it mercilessly
be
killed. I want a 10-minute shot.
I mean,
real
I
animal
got for the parrot more than when the dog was taken to be
well,
honest.
It looked like the parrot got absolutely pounded.
Oh yeah,
you know,
the parrot got fucking torn apart. Like,
it goes ass shred up.
Literally, like they didn't even eat the whole thing. It just sucked out and ate all the feathers.
Sucked its ass and just drained it of its life.
Yeah, literally tore off its skin and then like sucked out his life and just like That parrot looked like it got fucking destroyed.
Yeah. So that was a really
he kills the pets and the animals and kills all the ones in the lab and stuff like that. But
yeah.
Like you said, like you're like, this is all directly like somewhat because yes, okay, you didn't bring a mutant alien spider into the lab.
No.
You know, you didn't know what it was. You thought it was that, but there is also a point when it was like, come on, this isn't normal. You should know this is what odd or weird or this is what unusual. Can't like fully blame all of that on her, but you know she's still part of it, kind of thing. But yeah, it is just what adds to it when you don't quite feel for her, like feel like she's rooting for the action in the third act because it's kind of like not earned.
No,
and it feels a little bit, and it is something they do quite often, you know, and it's more often now, I'd say, in horror is putting a child front and centre. But the problem is, that's fine, but you still have to earn it like anyone else. You still got to earn it like any other character. It's not just because you're a child you have to overcome this. You know, I've heard a lot of people say like Sting is a bit like, you know, like a Arachnophobia meets Home Alone or something like, you know what I mean, like kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's like, I mean, but not really, because you know he was a brat.
Yeah.
But he was a likable, charming brat. You know, he had moments of emotion and sadness and thing. And the problem is, you never give her that opportunity. I'd say is the sad part here. We don't really get to see her like. So we get the big revelation, for instance, of like kind of going with just the family drama part. We get the big revelation that Dad is actually just kind of like he did live away, but he moved back 6 months, but he hasn't even been to see her. You know, so like stepdad has been trying. It gives her some perspective, you know, and she's that. But sadly, it just leads to more kind of bratty acts instead of a moment when it would have been good to see her actually. Okay, now she's going to get. That's the point where I was like, okay, I haven't really liked her, but she's kind of taken a hit here, and this is where I'd kind of like to see the emotional levity of like, you know, an emotional kind of breakdown. But it's not really followed by that. It's just followed by more kind of I hate you and this and that. She just leans in further into that attitude, and it's like, yeah, that's not, you know what I mean? Like that's what I'm saying. Like if you're talking about saying so like Home Alone, there's a point when he realizes that, oh shit, I really am kind of lost without my family.
Yeah. And
that's what kind of makes you have that balance of like, you can act like a little kind of shit at the beginning, not fully a shit, but you know what I mean? Like, but we kind of feel for you, but it just never comes in this, I don't think. And then suddenly she turns into action hero. And then suddenly, and then that's the part that suddenly feels like Home Alone, but also feels completely kind of like, where did this come from? This whole like, you've got a water pistol, like, you've got this, you've got that. It just suddenly feels like very like, oh wow, okay, like this just, it doesn't feel like the character we've been building up along to suddenly do that. If anything, at this point, she's had more like characters like, fuck, I'm getting out of here.
Yeah.
Like she's like,
fucking going.
I'm gone. It's like,
I'll get a new family.
Baby's on the side. It's like, fuck you, you're going to die.
Yeah, I'm going.
It's like, if the spider runs into the room, she just grabs that baby and just
yeets it. Just fucking gobble
right at the spider, just legs out the door, like she's gone.
Yeah.
Like literally throwing everyone, like her gran Helga, just like literally lobbing her at the spider, just like dying.
Pushing her down the stairs for no reason.
Like the child they presented this, I think, would have been more likely to be the one that suddenly starts to turn into the creep that starts to feed the spider like humans.
Yeah.
Then is more likely to be the one that suddenly goes, I need to save everyone around me. Like part of it, like it kind of slightly feels like because this whole like, oh my god, I love you kind of thing. That's kind of what I said about like the simplicity that kind of comes at the end of the film, because it just felt suddenly so easy because it just didn't feel like it was there before the spider takes them. It's like it took a spider to take my family to realise I love my family.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's like that. But it feels like at that point it was like if the stepdad had been taken but not the mum, she would have just been like, yeah, shit happens.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
fuck it, he'll be alright. He's a big boy.
If the baby had been taken, it didn't feel like she was going to go after me. It's only because
you can make another one in 9 months.
She somewhat seems like her mum a little bit more than everyone else, that she would have been like, alright, let's fucking do this.
That's a baby. Yeah,
that's what I mean. She just, sadly, it just didn't root in that way. Like, and
a
lot of the other characters around them are so thinly written that they're not, you know what I mean? And it is, like, when you write a character, the character doesn't have to have depth to be likeable. Frank is a good example in this film.
Yeah.
There's not much more to him, you know what I mean? He's just is that kind of charming character that comes in, is kind of jokey, kind of doesn't he takes his job seriously.
Yeah.
But everything else, he's kind of like, what is up with this person? Or who the fuck are you? Like, what are you doing?
Even he's a bit of an asshole at times.
That's what I mean. But he's a charming asshole, and we can deal with charming assholes.
Yeah,
that's what I mean. You can take that, but there's not much to him. But there's a reason you kind of leave, and he probably becomes like your most likable character in the film purely because, he is a bit more light-hearted, but he's also, he's easy. Like the actor comes in and he's got an energy to him.
It's really weird.
The family just don't have the energy. And as much as I say I like the stepdad, even he still doesn't have. I don't think just doesn't have that energy to like pull off to make you drawn into these characters. I think.
No, I think it's like. I think it comes back to what we were saying before about the tonal inconsistencies. Like the opening is great. Even the bit where she finds Sting and she's starting to feed him's good. Yeah. But as the film goes on, you get into this bit where like Sting is still like a little baby Sting. So he's being fed cockroaches. Then he figures out how he can get out, and he goes and he bums the power out, and that was a really good scene,
Yeah.
And it's like then that's when she calls Frank, and Frank's like, I've never seen fucking rats do this.
Yeah.
And we get like some jump scares and some stuff like that, but it almost feels like once it gets to this point, I feel like it stalls for quite some time, whilst it seems to be mostly like family drama, and then it's like, Sting slivers off, he goes downstairs and he kills the like hot Latina woman,
Yeah.
And her death was fucking bogging.
Oh yeah.
Her death was
brutal.
good. And it was one of those things where you're watching it and you're like, where is he? You see him like on the back of stuff, and she opens like a cabinet, she's looking for medication, you see his hand, you see Sting scuttling, and it's one of those things, it's like, fucking where is he?
Yeah.
And then he, Sting falls and kind of slaps, Sting falls? The woman falls and cracks her head open, which is rough, and then Sting comes in, and you're like, oh fucking hell, what's going on here? And Frank and the little girl Charlotte have already had a conversation about how spiders eat things. So it's already pretty gross that they eat things alive, and then it crawls into her mouth and starts to like eat out of her.
Yeah.
And it's like real gross, And
it cuts out of her stomach.
And it's like those moments are good. And then when Helga, and I think it's not Helga, it's the aunt. Some fucking
I
other
can't
German.
remember who it is. She's like a Dutch or German
Dutch
kind of accent.
freak.
Some
freak.
She's a little bit of a stereotype.
Some freak. we have German listeners and we have Dutch listeners.
Yeah, a freak.
A freak.
But not in a good way. Like I thought she just seemed like you've seen her in a film before. You've seen her in a horror film before. She's a character that has been done before, where she's just this mean-spirited, like
she's mistrustable
German lady,
mean-spirited. Who would have thought mean-spirited German?
I was trying to say that's a stereotype.
It is a stereotype.
Rob is leading into never allow him back into Germany.
Never allow me back into Germany.
It would do terrible things.
I would do terrible things.
But she just like that's all she comes apart. Is this mean-spirited old lady that everyone in the film hates, and whether she's German,
I liked her, to be honest. I kind of thought that a lot of the surrounding characters were good. Like I liked them.
I mean, the one thing you can say is like they stood out, as in they had personality. Somewhat, which is the one thing I was saying about the family, almost having such a low energy that there's very little personality between each character. Whereas at least, I can see like what you say in terms of that, like Helga, the mean aunt, Frank, the Latina lady. They have something that kind of in their short scenes that at least gives them kind of they stand out a little bit.
Yeah,
and it is that it's that second act of the film which mainly is just family drama, which just has scenes of Sting getting up to things and stuff like that mainly kind of draws down the film.
Yeah,
and it's a tricky bit there. It did feel like a real dip to me. Like
I agree.
Hard dot to get
and it's only when she wants to get a bigger tank and she takes it upstairs to the really weird biologist guy.
Yeah.
Who's like, I don't know whether he's supposed to be just like I don't know what he's
that's one part I also didn't really enjoy that part either. Like it was from the family part to his whole like, we're gonna do this, but I'm gonna test, and then suddenly he turns into a bit more of a, oh, what else can you eat? What else can you? You know, I
kind of got that because he's like a fucking. He's trying to do something with fish, you know, and he's a biology student, and he's just been given like a really rare creature, and then he sees it eat. So I like that. I like the idea that he's dubious, and it was rough as fuck when he's like feeding it a rat or a mouse, and you see that Sting has gotten visibly bigger, and then he's like, "What else do you know? What else can I feed you?"
Inside of his big like
tank,
kind of
yeah. And then you see like there's loads of things in cages, and there's like a fucking dog in a cage or something, and I was like, fucking hell. Yeah, and that's when Sting becomes a big boy, you know. But it almost feels to me as if I thought like Sting was going to get much bigger, much earlier, and then would start to cause some real havoc. Whereas it was only like he gets.
That's literally right. That's basically before.
It's like coming into the third act because
That's not long before the parents are taken.
Yeah,
that kind of thing. Like, I think once he's fully big, then it's pretty much I'm going for it. Like he's going for all the events and stuff like that.
And that was I liked when when the parents got taken, because it was that thing of like they're having this like culmination of your dad's a shithole. You know, your dad isn't the guy you think he is. He lives like 10 minutes away. He's just a prick. Like, why are you idolising him? And then the mum is like, you know, go and sit in the fucking, go and look after the baby. And then they're having this argument, and you see Sting in the background, and you're like, oh fuck, Sting's coming. And then he gets the dad, he gets the mum.
It's the cool way that it's around, like the daughter's walking around with the headphones on. Yeah. Again, not paying attention to the fucking baby. Has the headphones on.
Of course, man.
So the first part again in my head was that baby's
gone. That baby's getting
gobbled in a second.
It's going to be like a little chili cheese bite.
That's the bit that had intention, but then the parents get taken was more cool because of the way they shot it. And
I was shot really
through. And her not spotting, and you kind of see them getting dragged around across the floor or pulled down, or like that bit.
Getting like crunched through the vents. And
stuff
like
that was one of the cooler shots in the film. Whereas actually the just before that you get the German lady who gets taken.
Yeah,
and hers was a lot quicker than I was expecting her to get something a bit more brutal happen to her.
Yeah,
because they built her up as such a like almost the baddie, the human baddie,
the human baddie. The minor antagonist.
But she kind of just gets suddenly like caught and dragged into a vent kind of thing. And it's just a bit, I was like, oh, is that it? Is that all we're getting for it? And obviously you do get her more later, but you don't really ever get the conclusion of what happens to her. You see her get dragged down at one point, like when the parents are webbed up inside, or at least when you can see the dad, the stepdad webbed up. But then she just kind of gets like pulled down. You don't get to see much more apart from a bit of a scream kind of thing. But I thought they were going to go somewhere a bit more brutal with her.
Yeah,
considering the Latina lady got such a fucking brutal death.
And Frank got a brutal death as well.
That's what I mean. Like, so I was surprised she didn't get something a bit harsher. Because the Latina lady, even like in the early conversation, they even have like that's the other thing about these odd themes of like them laying in like really like serious stuff laid in with this kind of somewhat, you know, what feels like somewhat should be a bit more darkly comical and a bit slightly more light-hearted in some ways. By adding in this like really serious drama, it just shows like that difference, because with the Latina lady, for instance, she implies that her child died.
Yeah.
And there's just that one moment of implying child about the thing, and you're just like, fucking heavy.
She's just drinking it. She's just fucking drinking
but that's what, and then she's got that, and you're just like wondering, is there something else that's coming of this, or is this just that? But that's pretty much the main part of what she gets in terms of like talking full on lines. But you're just like, damn, like I think that's one of the first scenes when he's first helping her.
Yeah.
And you've just come from like the feeding of Sting at the beginning, that you first go, okay, this is kind of
it's a bit dark.
It's a bit heavy, but okay, if this is where we go, like with that. And that kind of starts off the stream of more like heavy kind of drama. But again, not like, there's no, you know, I don't mind that bit because it's a bit more ambiguous. But then, the family drama just feels all surface level to me. It felt like shouting and screaming about problems and then being like, I've got this, or I'm not your dad, or you're that. But there's no like depth to it. There's no it just feels like there's no real reason for it to link in with the rest of the story.
No.
I want something that kind of brings a moral together or something. If you're going to go with a dramatic thing in a horror film, I feel like it has to somewhat link with how that film evolves, kind of thing. And I just didn't feel like this did, apart from, that kind of quick ending that we'll get to in a minute. But where were we up to? We were up to the parents being taken.
Let's do a bit of foreshadowing, because I like a little foreshadowing. So the ones that I picked up on that kind of spring to mind, like I watched it in the cinema, so I didn't make any notes, was obviously the mothballs. Like she drops a mothball on it, a bit of it stings web, and stings web starts to like shrivel up. So fucking, they're just got to pelt him with a mothball later on. Yeah. The garbage compactor,
that one I felt
that messing up and it kind of jolting.
Yeah,
that was a fairly obvious one.
Coming down to that, they did that like 3 times.
Yeah,
every time we went to that trash compactor, it was this big like close-up shot of it like crushing down onto it in one big blow, kind of.
Yeah, and the thing not working.
That one was that's what I mean. That one I felt the mothball was more like bit of information there, good to know. The other one was okay, and that the first time they did that was not very far into the film. That was around the same time as that conversation with the Latina lady. I'm thinking like 20 odd minutes into the film, something like that. And it was just like, it was so heavy handed. I thought there's like, obviously the spider's going to be put in the trash compactor.
Nice.
It was like, it was like, you know what I mean? It just felt so, and then they kind of did it, I think 2 more times, and I was just like, yeah, we get it, the trash compactor. Yeah. Like, it was a bit heavy handed, I thought.
Well, anything else? Any other foreshadowing?
I was trying to think of...
Because that's the only...
I don't think so. Like we were talking earlier about the exterminator guys and stuff like that, and apart from like little teasers to like that opening and stuff like that, like the notes on the wall, or the fact she already had her name, and or the fact that I think you do see something to do with one of the exterminators a little bit earlier in the film, which then obviously links to later. But I don't think there was. I didn't pick up any of them.
Yeah, I don't think so. I don't think I did.
No.
But so I mean, let's talk about the ending then.
The third act,
because it does feel like it was kind of rather quick. So they have an argument. The parents get taken away, which is a really great scene, and then she's like, "Fuck, I need to get them back." The one thing that I thought would come into it slightly more is they established that Sting uses like a mimicry kind of thing, like he does this weird whistle when he wants to be fed, but he also does like a weird noise, like a clicking noise for the cockroaches.
Yeah,
and I thought that would have come into it like a little bit more. I thought as he kind of like evolved,
like an alien. It's also going to be an alien, so it's not like a natural.
I thought it would have been like doing like the baby cry or like her dad's voice and like trying to lure her in or something.
Yeah.
So I expected it like as it got on to almost be like a little bit more cat and mouse.
And that would have been a cool kind of creepy, done well. There was a way to do that. Yeah, just some bloke talking. It's just like, so the spider was just talking, like it wasn't like that. But if it's like noises that a human would make, or like a coughing noise, or a, like just sounds kind of thing, like baby crying noises,
baby crying,
in like a simple way, that could have been really effective. Yeah, but I don't. As far as I'm aware, there wasn't.
They kind of like dropped it.
Yeah,
like quite soon into the film, but it felt like it went very quickly because she does all the mothballs, she grinds them up and she makes like the tatty water, like the moth water, and then she tatty water, and then she. Yeah.
It is that whole scene is a proper kind of. It is kind of like an Aliens, or
it is like Aliens.
It's a proper like I'm gathering my equipment.
I'm a badass.
Down, or Home Alone, I guess is also it. But it's a proper like I'm gathering this stuff and I'm going to kick their ass kind of thing.
Yeah.
Although actually I did have, you see, like I did think some of the dialogue here was There was some dialogue in this film that I just was like, just stood out to me like, fuck it, that just doesn't sound right. Or I don't know if it's the way you're saying it or the way it is, but I think I had, I just thought that it mainly comes from the girl. I just didn't think she was consistently good at delivering lines.
Hit me with some examples,
Ken. So when the parents and stuff are taken out of the thing, she runs over to the vent in the wall, and then she just like shouts, "What the hell is going on?" And it's like, it just seemed so oddly out of place. Like the line I just thought was so oddly not delivered well.
Yeah.
Like it just, what the hell was going on? And it's kind of like, I don't know. I was just there like, it's kind of fucking obvious what's going on. Like I think there's even like a webbing-y stuff around her, like around the thing. It's like, it's really fucking obvious what's going on. But it wasn't so much that. It was the delivery of the line. I think more than anything else, where it was just like, she just didn't sound like legitimately bothered.
Yeah.
She was like, what the hell's going on? It's like, yeah, okay. Who cares?
Yeah, who cares?
Let's move on. I just, like, that was one of the, like, more, it just made me cringe a bit. Like, there were a couple of lines from her that just occasionally just, like, it just wasn't coming out like a natural human would say it.
Yeah.
And it was just one of those things that
even
I
that,
picked up on.
the biologist, you know, he was just, like, fucking weird. He was just, like, really deadpan.
Yeah.
And I was like, I kind of, like, know maybe what they're going for, but this guy is just fucking, like...
Oh yeah, he had no energy to
He had nothing.
He was just reading lines. It's like someone behind the camera was just like holding a giant. Here's the exposition. Read this.
Read this.
And it's just like that. And he's just delivering it exactly as he's
like,
reading.
Yeah.
No tone to it.
No.
It's like yeah. It just was some of those bits. That's just what I mean. Like, that's her performance within it a little bit, but at the same time, it's also. I just think some of the human kind of moments in this I think that's what makes some of the drama fall down. Just because some of the human, they either just don't feel like real moments, or they feel like what someone thinks a teenage girl should say instead of actually feeling like real dialogue, like that she should hate you all because she's a teenage girl, or she's there. You know, there's a lot of those bits that just the dialogue just isn't fully there to make it come alive, kind of thing.
Yeah.
At certain points, I think. As much as, there's a much better done with the visuals in this film than I think necessarily of the script itself.
Yeah.
I think what they've done visually with some of it, is really cool. Because it's weird. Because although the one thing I didn't, the end spider, yes, I could see. But for a lot of the film, because I remember people saying like, kind of were praising the practical effects over CGI. I thought a lot of it looked like CGI to me. It didn't look practical to me, a lot of it. Like when he was in the jar and stuff, obviously that's, I assume, CGI, but it didn't do it because it looked CGI to me. It looked like a little fake CGI spider. I don't know about the bit in the house at the start because that looked a bit better. But even towards the end when he was moving around and stuff, I still thought it mainly looked like it might have been practical, but it didn't look like.
I thought it looked most like it looked most practical when it was like in an enclosed space. So when it was in the vent and it took the ant, you could see that was like a puppet.
Yeah.
And then when they got in the trash compactor and you could see it coming towards them.
Yeah.
That's when you could tell it was. But
That's
outside that,
I
think it looked quite like CGI.
Yeah, and that's just what I was wondering, because there was a lot of talk about it being like majority of it is all practical, and I was like, okay. It was like, I don't know why, just to me a lot of it looked quite animated.
Same, especially when it was like on the wall.
I could tell the practical bit, like you said, the trash compactor was obviously practical. And that's what you do, because you could see in the movements it wasn't moving as freely. But for instance, when it was like in the jar and stuff like that, it was moving so like fluidly that it just looked CGI. So I assumed it was because it's a small one.
And the same when it was on the ceilings.
Yeah, it's very cool. It's cool that they used like a practical kind of part for it. It's just the fact that like I couldn't notice. I don't know. I don't know if that's good or a bad thing. Is that good? Like, you can't tell. I don't know.
I don't know.
But
I'm not the authority on it.
But yeah, it just. I don't know if it's just because of the design, because obviously it's not meant to necessarily look as a spider of this world. Technically, I guess. But it never looked like truly, fully like real to me. I guess at the same time, but you know, it was just that was running in my brain kind of thing a little bit. And then, well, we've had her set herself up. Yeah. She's done a whole montage of "I'm ready to fight you.
I'm ready to scrap you.
This is my house. No one's going to take my house," kind of thing. And then she basically, she goes through to save. Does she go to Helga's? I think it is.
Yeah, she goes into there, and then that's when she was like, Helga's fucking jacket stinks of mothballs.
Yeah.
And it's covered in them. So just like keep it on. And she says that there was a dog in here, and whenever I tried to pet it, it like ran away, and that's really funny.
Yeah.
And then it just seems like
we got Frank. So doesn't Frank part of what? Oh no, Frank's been taken. Frank's been taken. Yeah. It's when she gets down to basically the main part hits when she actually gets down to the basement.
Yeah.
And she finds
she frees her
the dad and she gets them out of there, and then obviously they've been looking for Mum, and then that's when Frank kind of is there with Dad and her.
Yeah.
And Frank has the whole, and you feel sorry for Frank
because I think he liked it,
because obviously he hasn't been in that much of it, but he's just kind of in this situation. He's freaking out. He thinks he's got the upper hand because he has his old little nail gun or something like that.
Yeah.
I think he is. And he's blasting and thinks that's going to work.
Which is arachnophobia, isn't it?
Yeah.
I remember. I can't remember who it is. I've only seen the film once. But I remember a nail gun. Because I think that nail gun's quite a cool weapon, isn't it?
And he thinks he's got... Yeah, he thought he had the upper hand. And then he just gets literally, like, dragged across the room. Like, he gets a web onto him and just gets pulled across the room, doesn't he? And then, to be fair, I wasn't expecting it to be so, like... Bloody, when literally it's just his head that gets in and then suddenly splat.
Yeah, it was really quick.
His head's been like crushed in between the spider's mouth.
Yeah, that was really cool.
Yeah, I thought that was really good. That was definitely probably apart from the lady in the foot is probably the best death.
Yeah,
gore wise, but I quite liked the sudden like splat cool. It just like was a sudden shit.
Yeah, well, pretty much all the kills were pretty good.
Yeah, they all worked really well. But yeah, so
then it's Terminator,
Then it's Terminator. It's literally just drawing them into the trash compactor.
Yeah.
And then it gets drawn in. Skull. And that's what I mean. I just think it just came to such a... I don't know. It felt oddly... I can't say quick because the film didn't feel quick because for an hour and a half film
but the end, I think the end
felt quick. Yeah, it felt like I was expecting him to do more destruction or more things than he actually does. Sting. I was expecting more from him, and instead it's mainly just he tangles them down ready to eat, and he's just eating down there. And then once we get down to the actual basement, it's basically just, Frank dies, yes. But apart from that, it's basically just like, oh, we've got a solution. We're going to do this to them.
Yeah, I would have liked to have seen like more Sting when he's bigger. And more, I would have liked to have seen him like actually like eat someone,
Yeah.
Like that would have been really cool.
Yeah. But that's what we don't get that full imagery. We get to see it coming out of someone, but
not going into someone. We don't see any penetration.
Where's the penetration?
Where's the penetration? Yeah, all good films have to have penetration.
But yeah, it's cool. It's just, to me, it definitely, the ending felt too quick. It felt too on the nose that I knew, and I kind of wish that they were going to bend away from it because they made it quite on the nose that this is how it's going to happen. I knew the trash compactor was coming, but at the same time, I kind of was hoping that was going to fail or not work.
Or I was hoping it wouldn't have killed it.
Yeah, it wouldn't have worked or something like that. Just because it then would have given, it gives that little bit of a, you think you know what's coming, but actually it's fucked.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You think this was going to work, but it wasn't. That's why I was kind of hoping that's why they were being so a bit heavy-handed with the foreshadowing.
Yeah.
Because it was like, actually, no, that's not
how it's going. You got to do something else.
But no, it pretty much goes exactly as is. The Terminator is taken in.
Yeah.
He gets crushed as you watch, and Sarah Connor's staring.
Because they also have the bit where quite a few times you see a picture of her riding the spider.
Riding the spider?
Yeah, like her with an axe riding the spider. They have that like fangirl comic.
Oh yeah.
So I thought maybe the trash compactor's not going to work, and she's got to climb on top of it and fucking swamp it in the brain with something.
Yeah.
Maybe
down into it.
Yeah, and maybe I'd be like, okay, the trash compactor was the heavy kind of like the heavy foreshadowing, and then this is the one that you're like, that's where it came from.
I forgot about it in the comic book there. I was like, you foreshadowing that. I was like, I do not remember seeing her riding the spider.
Yeah, she rides the spider.
On everything. I was like, how high were you? What was
I was
just imagining the scenario.
Imagine like a whole other film.
Yeah.
Like an hour. Oh man, that was a 4-hour odyssey. I loved it.
Yeah, but yeah, that's it. That it goes from that, and then it basically goes straight into that whole like, she's almost like finally she's like, oh, I'm like so sorry, I love you, Dad, and
Daddy's dead,
Daddy, and just like that, and
Daddy died, and it's like.
It just felt like too much of a simple and easy, like trying to go for some kind of perfect, like that suddenly felt like you're like, so now you want to do it Spielberg style and the lovely happy family, no harm came to the family kind of perfect little ending.
Dad is an angel.
Now you feel like that, but the rest of the film didn't feel like that in terms of the family and the drama side of things. So that felt far too much like a neat little bow that it's like. Literally, like I said before, it took a spider taking your family to suddenly be like, oh my god, I love you, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I just found the scene just a bit cringy. Like, it just didn't work for me at all. Like, it just didn't work, and everything felt so suddenly quick that, and it's not taking away from the rest of the film, because, there is a lot, and I do think at times Sting is generally quite like scary.
Oh yeah, I think it had some good moments of horror in it,
and some good, and some of the deaths and some of the stuff that happens to the characters, and some of the things they do with Sting are legitimately scary and freaky, and you'll be fucking worried about going into.
Nobody likes fucking spiders, do they?
Well, even people are like, I'm not even like bothered. Like, I'm not like scared of spiders, but if a spider suddenly does something erratic, I'm still fucking like fuck.
It's spiders to a certain size, and then I'm like, spiders shouldn't exist.
To be fair, I'm looking outside your window now, and it looks like, I don't know.
There is a dead spider outside the window. Yes,
but that looks fucking huge. Like, what is it? Is that the legs that I can see? Like,
we've had this
outside the window, I can see something that looks like a two-legged spider, like these two giant long legs with two like smaller arms.
I believe it is a spider, but it's mummified because it's been there for so long, and it's almost like. This is a warning for them of what happens if you come inside. This is what happens.
Like, you hung one outside.
I hung one, yeah. I hung a spider.
You made a small noose to put around it. This is what happens.
I killed it. We don't like spiders around here. But yeah, I don't know. I think like to a certain size, like they're bogging, and I hate them, and I wish that they didn't exist.
Yeah.
And we get a tease. We get a tease of another Sting Jr. at the end, where we see another little egg hatch.
Yeah.
And here's the thing, like, I thought it was a enjoyable film. I expected to be a bit more of a dark version of Eight-Legged Freaks, kind of. And I didn't get that. But I kind of feel like if it made enough money, which we were trying to find the budget and we couldn't see, but then I don't think it's done particularly great. However, if they were like, we're bringing Sting 2 back, Sting's back this time.
Yeah,
I'd go and watch it, because I feel like if they were like, we're not going to make this a bit of a mopey family drama, we're going to make this about weird people fighting off these fucking alien spiders.
Yeah,
I would watch that.
Yeah, I would, and that's why I was kind of, I feel like I was a little bit. To start with, a little bit pissed at this film because I felt like they promised me a fun film, and I feel like it didn't live up to that.
It's a bit of a rug pull.
I wanted that kind of spider flick, not the serious one, and it. Like I said, I guess I wanted more of a Spielberg than a Cronenberg.
Yeah,
you know what I mean, like a bit more like that. But even Cronenberg would have done it a bit more
definitely.
The opening's good, but. It just is like the main kind of build, like the glue kind of thing, was the family kind of part of it.
Yeah.
Sadly, when that part doesn't work, it kind of infects the rest of the film, kind of thing. What I mean? It makes the rest of it feel a little bit less enjoyable. I wanted to love it more than I did, but I kind of just. I think the spider stuff works really well.
Yeah.
But I just wish it was in a slightly different. Character base kind of thing. I wish it was in a different structure of a film.
Like it was And I don't know why it's a weird thing to say, but it was almost like too character driven, you know? It was almost like, can we stop having this family mope around, and can we just have like some sting hijinks and some gore and some fun with it? You're telling a story about an alien spider, you know, like have a bit of fun.
That's what I mean. A film that's an hour and a half about an alien spider that comes out to eat people or whatever should not drag.
No, it should be a ball slapping good time.
That's what I mean. It should just be fun. And I just think, sadly, the family, and as we said, it's not even that. Like, it's perfectly fine if that's the way they want to go with it. But sadly, then, in which case, like I said before, it needed to dig a bit deeper into the family. It needed to give you more of a reason to care. And to be honest, it also needed to work on the main character because, it did. And though nothing wrong with the actress in their performance necessarily, those kind of things. And all the actors, to be honest, I think are doing a good job. I just don't think there's just a strong enough story here to defend making this film into a family drama kind of thing, you know what I mean?
It's the wrong move, man.
Yeah, it just doesn't pull it off at the end of the day. And, and as I said, although the spider stuff is very creepy and very scary, there's nothing necessarily here that isn't, like, new. There's nothing that isn't kind of somewhat predictable. You kind of felt like you knew who was going, you knew where it was going, and you knew in the end the family was going to all come together in some perfect little boat. And it's kind of sad it didn't make you fall away from that, because if they were going to go with this being a dark and more serious one, then in which case some more serious shit had to happen. That includes the family as well.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Some people had to go. Someone had to...
One of the parents has got to die.
Yeah, that's what I mean. That baby was eaten.
That baby's getting gobbled.
They're just like, when she says it, like, when she turns around to stepdad at the end and says, I love you, and he's like, I don't give a shit.
I don't give a shit.
My child just died.
Yeah, my child is like a bag of goo.
I'm out of here. I'm hitting the drink. I'm hitting the drugs. I'm fucking done.
I'm hitting your mum.
That's it. Yeah, fuck it. You can fuck up. I'm not crazy. I'm here. I was only here because I got your mum up the duff, and now the baby's gone. I'm out.
I'm fucking bolting. Yeah.
That's it. It's over. I'm Michael Bolton on this.
Yeah, I'm Michael fucking Bolton. I'm going, man. Wait, Michael Bolton, is that the singer or the one who somebody died in his pool?
No, that's Michael Barry. Michael Bolton's the singer.
You'd rather do a Michael Bolton than a Michael Barry.
Yeah, I was going to say, No, not killing someone in your pool.
Yeah.
You didn't kill someone. You didn't kill someone. Drowned or whatever.
During a sex
an orgy or so,
yeah.
Orgy party. That's just what you want in an orgy.
Yeah, he goes, at the end, he goes, I'm going to do an orgy party.
No, Michael Bolton, I believe, is an American, quite sexualised singer.
He is a sexual man.
Everyone's a piece of Michael Bolton singing in your ear.
I don't think what songs does he even do? Cause I don't think I even know.
I have no idea. I don't actually know about.
I know the Lonely Island song.
I know Michael Bolton for cameos in things he does in American things. I know nothing of his music.
No.
I know he just serenades people with
his long hair, like Fabio.
And because one other note I did make is that, and I haven't seen this, but I had a lot of people comparing this film to Infested.
Yes, which was a French
horror film.
It came out at the same time.
Very, I think it came out at the end of 2023, but in some countries it was released this year.
Yes, I think it came to Shudder maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, and that's
but this, I believe this is like more little baby spiders in an apartment.
Yeah, this is like lots of spiders in that kind of thing. But it's it's still spiders in an apartment block.
Goblin.
So a lot of people are like, these are very similar. But I've heard a lot of people saying like, Infested takes it kind of the way you'd want to. Like, it's not that it's not serious, but it is kind of dark and creepy and kind of
like, to watch it.
Really like I've heard a lot of people saying it's really impressive, and a lot of people saying this is the
lesser.
When you always get these, you get your Deep Impact, your Armageddons.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? You get 2 at the same time all the time. These things happen, but this is you've got 2 at the same time, and there's always one that feels like the B movie of the
Ants and Bugs Life.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there you go.
I saw Bugs Life.
I saw Ants.
The inferior
And there you go. You know, and they're both in that different thing. You know, some people like one more than the other, but there's always coming at the same time. But there's always a loser in this situation.
There always is. And
you can't be Bruce Willis blowing up a meteorite. Suddenly you've got to be Elijah Wood running from, I don't know, whatever the fuck it was.
Running from a deep impact.
Yeah, he running from a deep impact.
Who was the
Elijah
ant
Wood
in Ants?
running from deep impact.
Who was the ant in Ants?
Was it Woody Allen?
Well, fuck it out.
Woody Allen. Yeah.
So you even
Woody Allen and like Sylvester Stallone in Ants or whatever.
Yeah, you get it.
Although to be fair, actually out of the two though, Ants is fucking dark.
Yeah, but it's got an old paedophile.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's right.
That's right. He ends up marrying the little cocoon of his ex-wife.
Yeah.
And then he ends up taking this little cocoon away.
So if you take one message from today, just remember, next time you're having that beautiful picnic and that little ant's getting on your sandwich,
crush it.
Remember,
Kill it.
Remember, all that ant's trying to do is he's a little Woody Allen trying to get inside you.
Yeah, and be careful of the ants that signed the petition to allow that ant to go back to working in the colony. We all know who they were. But then, speaking of Invested and this film, it does, you know, I mean, do you have any last thoughts? Because I've got something to ask the people.
I think I've pretty much wrapped up my thoughts on this. It's you know, it's a kind of meh, it's alright.
Yeah, it's a bit of hashtag sting, a bit of hashtag stink.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, that's our thoughts. Come and let us know your thoughts on Twitter and Instagram at CMTH Podcast. Hit that subscribe button and leave us a lovely review. But also let me know this. Would you rather be in an apartment block with one massive fuck-off spider or an apartment block with loads of tiny little spiders that all try to kill you, though? It's an ethical debate. Now come and let us know on Twitter and Instagram at CMTH Podcast. And we will see you soon. Bye-bye.